Linz, will you just let me know when now that you can see it?
I tried new lighting. Is it good?
Yes, it's good. Yeah, it helps a little with the reflection actually.
Good.
Okay, hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Um, Trevor King speaking to you. I live in just outside Belfast, Northern Ireland. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, I look after most of Andrew's online stuff, and that's how I'm involved. Andrew will be joining us from Rochester, New York, very shortly. Welcome to those of you who have joined us from Facebook. This is the first time we've done this in quite a while. We've had a phenomenal response, I have to tell you, so there's no way we're going to get through all your questions, I'm afraid. Over 200 questions submitted, and at 2 minutes a question, that would be a 7-hour webinar. So I don't think we're going to get through all of those tonight, but we'll do our best to get through as many of them as we can. If we don't get to yours, please don't be too disappointed. Just see what you can learn from the rest of the time we spend together. Like I say, some of them won't make it. Some of the questions we have edited down just for brevity, and I know Andrew intends to keep his answers as brief as he can also, so we can get through as many as we can. So Andrew, I'll hand over to you just to welcome everyone along tonight.
Thank you, Trevor. Welcome, everyone. The opportunity to do Q&A is important. I like to think that this is sort of like when I did consulting over the last 39 years or so. You're sitting down with me, and I'm not a physician, but I have some experience and some insights, and I hope that that's of some help to you.
Excellent, I know it will be. And that is an important point to emphasize, folks. Andrew is not a medical doctor, never claimed to be, but is certainly an expert in all these areas. So we will fire straight in with the first question. Dear Dr. Saul, my name...
important. I like to think that this is sort of like when I did consulting
give me a second.
Over the last 39 years or so. You're sitting down with me, and I'm not a physician, but I have some experience and some insights, and I hope that that's of some help to you.
Excellent, I know it will be. Okay, that was our first technical glitch of the evening. Sorry, what happened there was it was replaying, because there's a 30-second delay on Google Hangouts, and it was replaying through another screen, and you were hearing the echo, so excuse us for that. We can edit it out later. First question this evening is from someone called Jason, and Jason says, I have followed all your posts on Facebook. I'd very much appreciate your thoughts on vitamin C therapy for people living with HIV. Very serious one to start with. Is there a benefit of any kind if one were to partake in aggressive vitamin C intake if they live with HIV?
The answer to that is yes. Vitamin C is an antiviral, and the more vitamin C you take, the more powerful an antiviral it is. When I taught school, we weren't even told which kids in our class were HIV positive. It's a matter of privacy. So I think everyone should maximize their own immune system strength by taking vitamin C. And for people that are living with someone who has HIV, obviously you want to take it too. For the person who has the virus itself, it's absolutely essential that your intake of vitamin C be very high. And the way to judge this is bowel tolerance. Dr. Robert Cathcart developed this years ago. He was a medical doctor and surgeon in California. And he said with oral doses of vitamin C, you take as much as you can hold, but not so much as causes loose stool. Linus Pauling thought that was brilliant, and I agree with Dr. Pauling, it is brilliant. The way I put it is take enough C to be symptom-free, whatever the amount might be.
Okay, excellent. This one is from Barbara, and this is an interesting question also. I'd like to know, since you're an orthomolecular expert, what type of testing do you feel is best for vitamin, mineral, and heavy metals? Is blood, saliva, urine, or hair analysis the best way to go, or a combination of different types?
I would say that with heavy metals, hair analysis is still reliable. For most people, if you're going in for a physical anyway, you might want to have blood tests for vitamins. For instance, vitamin D, that's a good idea. If you're taking a lot of vitamin D, it's nice to know you're not taking too much. I was taking a lot of vitamin D. My doctor tested and said, you should take some vitamin D, your level's low. Well, the doctor didn't know I was already taking a lot. That's how it can be when you live in a cloudy northern climate. So blood testing is good, it's useful, at least for vitamin D. But with many nutrients, with many minerals and many vitamins, a blood test is really not very helpful. In fact, tests in general are not very helpful because they only tested you where you were. If you went in Tuesday morning at 8:30 and had the test, well, that's how much you had in you at Tuesday morning at 8:30. It is a dynamic process. Your body's a 24-hour concern, and your levels for vitamins and minerals change as the day goes on. General rule with water-soluble vitamins, vitamin C and B complex, is take them in divided doses because they're the ones that change the most. As far as minerals go, an organic diet provides a lot of minerals. This is important. A good multi-mineral supplement, a good vitamin, multivitamin every meal, and extra vitamin C and vitamin E as in Edward and vitamin D as in dog is a good basic program. If you have the test, good. If you don't have the test, you can do this empirically. You can just see how you're doing. Remember, there's objective proof, which is with numbers and tests, and there's subjective proof, which is, do you feel well? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you're healthy, that's what you want. The idea is to be well. Tests are useful, but you're still going to have to pay attention to the big test of your body's everyday existence. If you are doing well, if you are happy and healthy, you're probably doing the right thing.
Okay, thank you. This one's from Sandy Lee, and they ask, and this sort of goes back to the HIV question almost in a way, what are your suggestions for handling the Ebola viral epidemic?
First of all, don't listen to the television news because they're going to have you believe that this virus is coming to your town and people of different cultural backgrounds are going to be bringing it to you. Look, we live in a world full of viruses and bacteria. I'm here to tell you that I was a little boy when international jet travel started, so we've had well over half a century of people wandering around with viruses and bacteria, and somehow the human race is still here. Having said that, Ebola is a very serious disease. If a person has it, or even thinks they have it, or even think they might get it, their best defense, in my opinion, is for them to take bowel tolerance levels of vitamin C. Same reason as with HIV, because Ebola is also viral. So you get that level up to saturation. And this is the maximum amount that you can hold, divided doses. Linus Pauling took 18,000 milligrams a day in divided doses, and that's what I take. Why? Because Dr. Pauling had 2 Nobel Prizes, and I copy him.
Good answer. Someone else asked about the Ebola virus as well, if it had mutated into, morphed into an airborne variant, would that make any difference? But I take it the answer to that is the same thing.
If it's a virus, and if you want to stop that virus, the best way I know is to get your vitamin C level so high that the vitamin C works as an antiviral. Not only that, vitamin C boosts your immune system, so you really win both ways. If you take vitamin C, put it in a test tube with viruses, you'll kill the viruses. Dr. Klaus Jungblut showed this in the test tube and in monkeys back in 1935 when he was killing poliovirus with, are you ready? Vitamin C. Now, Ebola cannot be any more scary than polio. 1935, 2014, 2015, virus, serious, fear, vitamin C, vitamin C. The trick is dose. You've got to take a lot. Someone that has Ebola might literally need 150,000, 200,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day. Intravenous vitamin C if they're seriously ill. All hospitalized patients that are fighting a virus should have intravenous vitamin C.
Okay, thank you. Could you address the safety of the use of high-dose vitamin C by those who have autoimmune issues? For instance, in the case of thyroid antibodies, would high-dose vitamin C have any effect on the immune system attacking the thyroid, either positively or negatively?
Good question, complex question. I'm not an endocrinologist. I don't have the specialized training to give you the perfect answer. But my experience and my reading both suggest that high doses of vitamin C benefit autoimmune diseases. The best way for us to begin to look at this is to look at the work of Dr. Frederick Robert Klenner. Dr. Klenner, a medical doctor, a board-certified chest specialist and graduate of the Duke University Medical School, was using high doses of vitamin C and other vitamins for people that have multiple sclerosis. Generally, multiple sclerosis is considered an autoimmune disease. Quanner noted nothing but benefit. To read more on this, go to dryourself.com for a free download of Dr. Quanner's complete protocol for multiple sclerosis. And you'll see that he gave very high doses of many different vitamins. Autoimmune diseases are not going to get better with bad nutrition. Bad nutrition never cured anything. Dr. Quanner gave megadose nutrition of vitamins, and he stopped and even reversed multiple sclerosis. That protocol, that treatment plan, is at dryourself.com. Left-hand column is a yellow vertical stripe. Go down just a little bit, and you can click that and download that PDF for free.
Okay, thank you. Got to point out to you again, some of these questions, ladies and gentlemen, are so complex that there's just no way we can cover them all. I will read some of them anyway, but Andrew's answers might be just that he simply can't cover them, so just bear that in mind. Some of them are also very, very broad topics, like this one from Cliff. It says, after drinking coffee, how long should I wait before taking vitamin supplements to ensure maximum absorbance?
To ensure maximum absorbance, don't drink the coffee.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting. Yeah, forget about the coffee, Cliff. Just take the vitamins. Dr. Saul, I know a great deal about nutrition, but little when it comes to take which vitamin, and most importantly, which vitamins react positively or negatively with other vitamins or other supplements. What is your perspective? Is there an authoritative list?
Sure. The entire animal kingdom. Look at the entire animal kingdom. They get all their nutrients from their foods. Their foods tend to be organic, and their food is invariably raw. All right, now keep that one in mind. They eat all kinds of foods all the time. Carnivores eat meat, omnivores eat everything, herbivores eat plant matter. They get their vitamins from their food. They eat food all the time. They don't worry whether they're taking the wrong thing with the other thing. You shouldn't either. Your body is smarter than we think it is. And that's good. Quite frankly, I'm glad my body's smarter than I am, because when I was a little kid, I was nutty and wacky suicidal like all little kids are. They don't have any thought for their hide nor their hair. So the body is smart. The body has balance. The body knows what to do. It can absorb lots of nutrients at once. It can walk and chew gum at the same time. Your body is capable of absorbing what you need as long as you provide it. Vitamins don't interfere with other vitamins. That's a drug concept. Drugs interfere with other drugs. Drugs interfere with vitamins. Vitamins almost never interfere with drugs, and vitamins do not interfere with other vitamins. Any more than the New York Yankees baseball team has a problem when it has a good second baseman and a good first baseman and a good left fielder and a good pitcher and a good catcher. And if you don't like the Yankees, just substitute the Orioles and have some fun here. Vitamins work synergistically. They are a team. They work together well. That's the way your body and all of nature is designed. Vitamins don't interfere with other vitamins.
Okay. Given that certain conditions require certain supplements, what supplements and dosages should be taken by everyone every day?
Okay, talk about a sweeping question. Well, I'll tell you what I told the prisoners that I taught in 2 state prisons. And no, I was not an inmate myself, but that was the first college teaching job I got, was teaching in 2 New York State penitentiaries. I asked them, can you take vitamins? And they kind of laughed. And I said, well, you mean they don't give you a multivitamin? And they laughed really loud at that. And finally, one fellow, when he stopped laughing, said, well, you can buy vitamins yourself with your own money at the commissary, at the PX, at the prison store. So I asked him, well, what have they got? He said, they have a multiple vitamin. I said, all right, why don't you take a multiple vitamin every meal? Avoid sugar. And can you buy wheat germ? And he said, yeah, you can buy wheat germ. I said, okay, sprinkle wheat germ on everything. There. That's my quick and dirty prescription. I would like everybody worldwide to do exactly that. Cut out sugar, That'll save you money. With that money, you can buy your multivitamin. Take a multivitamin with each meal, and you can put wheat germ on everything. Wheat germ is loaded with protein, magnesium, vitamin A, all kinds of good stuff. Don't like wheat germ? You can take vitamin E and the other vitamins if you have the extra money. But that would be what I would like to see everybody do. Just cutting out sugar, the world will be a healthier place. And if everyone had a multivitamin 3 times a day, nutritional deficiency would be pretty much gone. And if you add wheat germ to everything, you're going to have more nourishment than you'll ever get with that white bread. Dr. Carlton Fredericks was once asked by a woman who knew that Dr. Fredericks was critical of white bread, very critical, on his radio show of junk food. And the woman said, Dr. Fredericks, is white bread good for anything? And he said, yes, madam, it is excellent for cleaning your kitchen countertops.
Very good. This one's from Anita, and she says, hi, Andrew. I've just started to read 2 of your books on niacin, niacinamide, the other, the orthomolecular one. I am strictly a vegan. Can I take niacin to rid myself of fibroids? It's been 6 years since I was diagnosed with this problem. I've lived on my juicer every day. 80% diet is raw and drinking herbal teas, but nothing has seemed to work so far. Is there any health plan I can go on to get rid of these fibroids?
I don't know. I've had folks asking me this for a long time. Dr. Jennifer Daniels, a medical doctor of my acquaintance from Syracuse, New York, said that she found if she did a program similar to the Gerson program, lots and lots of vegetable juices, organic food, lots of good food, no junk food, she experienced her fibroids get about 80 to 90% smaller. She didn't say they went away, but they got a lot smaller. See, fibroids aren't really particularly deadly, so the body doesn't particularly mind them. And this is a situation that's probably good in that they're not all that bad, but it's bad in that your body doesn't really try very hard to get rid of them. So I don't have a special answer for you except to say there is nothing to lose, in my opinion, by really doing the vegetable juicing thing thoroughly. There are some homeopathic remedies that might possibly help. Phytolacca comes to mind, but I'm really not sure about this one. If you get results, report back to us, would you, and tell us what did it for you.
Just when you mentioned juicing, Andrew, when I first came into this a couple of years ago and people talked about juicing, my automatic thing was to juice fruit because fruit's so much nicer than vegetables. So could you just address that for a second, the importance of, because I remember Charlotte Gerson on YouTube talking about a lady from Ireland who went over for the Gerson therapy, and when she went home, rather than juicing carrots 14 times a day, she was drinking orange juice 14 times a day, and didn't do her a lot of good. Didn't make me feel good that she was from Ireland either, but could you address that briefly, the importance of the vegetables in there?
Sure. If it'll make you feel any better, the first juice fast I ever did, I was in Vermont, and I used orange juice also. And woo, boy, talk about a buzz. I mean, you know, you're just flitting around like crazy because you're taking in a lot of sugar, let's face it. Orange juice is still probably better than any medication, and it's way better than a soft drink. Having said that, we don't juice fruits basically because, one, they tend to be too sweet. But primarily we don't juice fruits because we don't need to. Most fruits are soft and succulent. There's a lot of moisture there. It's easy to chew an orange or a grapefruit or a papaya. This is not really difficult to do. Don't really need to juice your grapes. Just eat your grapes. Vegetables, on the other hand, tend to be more woody. You could really do somebody an injury if you hit them hard with a turnip or a carrot or a very large parsnip. And for this reason, juicing vegetables is helpful for your consumption and for your absorption. Your absorption, because the juicing breaks down the cell walls, releasing the nutrients into liquid, you drink the liquid, and now you absorb more than if you actually ate and chewed. Think of the juicer as a motor with teeth, a blender with teeth, and it simply breaks down the cell walls, and that releases the material in solution for you to absorb better. The other advantage of juicing is that you increase your intake. Most people will not sit down and eat 10 or 20 pounds of vegetables a day. But if you juice them, you can reduce this to a relatively workable amount. If I juice 5 pounds of organic carrots, that works out to be about a quart and 3/4, so just maybe 1.5 liters of carrot juice. And I can drink that in one session very quickly. I would not be able to eat 5 pounds of carrots in any kind of reasonable time frame. Vegetables are good to juice. It isn't that you can't eat them. It's just that if you juice them, the absorption's better and you will take in more. Vegetable juicing is a good idea. Some vegetables are higher glycemic. Carrots, for instance, or beets are relatively sweet. Some authors, some critics say, oh no, you should only have the green drinks, you should only have the leafy vegetables. But your kids won't drink that. And I know because I raised my kids juicing. My daughter and I wrote a book on what it was like for her to be raised juicing or for me to raise her. It's from her point of view and my point of view. The book is called Vegetable Juicing for Everyone, and it's really funny. It's the only funny book on juicing there is, because I'm telling what it's like to raise a kid who says, how much of this stuff do I have to drink? And she's looking at it from the point of view that she's the only weird one in the neighborhood who has a carrot juice mustache. Therefore, if you want your family to do the juicing, it had better taste good. And carrots and beets are tasty. Celery and cucumbers and zucchini aren't bad. Things like kale and broccoli and cabbage, which are marvelously good for you, taste awful. Therefore, you have to add some fruit to that to make it palatable. Look, I'm of the Mary Poppins School of Medicine, and you may remember her advice. A spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Now, I am not excusing or condoning sugar intake. I'm simply saying a little bit used tactically to achieve a greater result is all right. I used to say to my kids, here, drink your juice, and I'll give you anything you want for your meal within reason after you have your juice. And that got it down pretty well.
Okay, this one stays on the food sort of area, and it's from Mark in England. Mark has gone through the Mega Vitamin course before, I think. He says, I'm trying to follow your advice regarding moving to a near vegetarian diet. When planning meals, I look at nutritional values to try to include adequate carbohydrate and protein values. I noticed the carbohydrate and protein values on a can of cooked chickpeas are approximately 20% of those shown on a raw pack of chickpeas. I'd be very interested to hear if you know if this is a typical reduction in the nutritional value of cooked versus raw food. And also, could you give a ballpark carbohydrate and protein recommended intake that people should aim for?
With the chickpeas, when I bought chickpeas, they were dry. And when I buy canned chickpeas, they are wet, they are cooked, they are soaked. So I think most of that difference is just hydration, it's just water. If you take those dry chickpeas and cook them up thoroughly, and pack them in water and put them in something the size of a can and then do an analysis, I think you're going to find it's exactly what you have in the can. You can't eat a raw chickpea. All right, maybe you can. But I was a farmer, a dairy farmer for years, and I saw cows eat a lot of stuff, and I can't do that. I can't eat corn husks. I'm sorry, there's a limit. I don't have a 4-chambered stomach. I don't chew my cud. I do advocate a plant-based diet, but I recommend that we keep in mind that we are human. So you have to do what will make this work. Make it easy for yourself. As far as carbohydrate and protein intake, oh my gosh, the things people worry about. You just don't have to even think about it. Just eat a wide variety of organically grown plant-based food and you will get plenty of carbs. And you will get plenty of protein. Everybody, and I mean everybody, gives me the business on this. Look, the largest animals on Earth are vegetarian. Rhinoceros, hippopotamus, elephant. These are animals that are eating a plant-based diet, and they're doing fine. So we can too. Sure, we're not exactly the same, but you get the basic point. Gorillas are very similar to us, and they are also vegetarian animals, plant-based eaters. And even the primates that do eat meat, the occasional chimpanzee and certainly baboons, their intake of other things is actually quite high. Even Eskimos, who were known for their classic consumption of huge amounts of raw flesh and raw fish and blubber, they did eat vegetable matter. It just didn't get the press that the more spectacular, look what I brought home in my kayak with my harpoon type of kill would. But they would have plants and grasses that they would preserve in seal oil, and they did eat vegetable matter as well. And finally, guess what's the first part of an animal that a carnivore eats? When a lion brings down a gazelle, they do not eat the muscles or the legs or the chops or the ribs. They go for the viscera. They eat the guts, and they eat the last vegetarian meal of that animal. And this is almost always true. If you look at leftover kills in the Serengeti, you will not find the viscera. The viscera is gone. What you will find is some of the muscles and the skeletal material left. I know that sounds a little gross, but that's just one more reason why we should eat a plant-based diet.
That's interesting. This one comes from Elizabeth, and she says, first of all, I want to say I'm a huge fan of your work. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. You have been a great contributor to the health of our family. My grandmother of 81 years is a dialysis patient, 3 times a week, 4 hours each session. She has HX of HTN. What vitamins can she take to stay healthy and not feel so drained that will not affect her negatively due to the dialysis?
Again, that would be a specialized question. Dialysis is a specialized case. You want to talk to the doctors about this, and remember that it's always a good idea to get doctors' input. Listen. You don't have to do what they say, but you should listen to what they have to say and then make up your own mind after you research it a little bit more on your own. Dialysis is probably going to cause a person to lose some nutrients. Without looking it up, I do not know which ones are more likely to be lost, so I'm not prepared to answer that question to the extent that you deserve to have an answer. But it would be very difficult indeed to make a case against taking a good multivitamin every meal. It would be very difficult to make a case against organic wheat germ on your food. It would be impossible, in my opinion, to make a case against vegetable juices. And I don't know a doctor yet that has complained about a patient taking coenzyme Q10. CoQ10 gives you benefits as if you were taking vitamin C as in Charlie or E as in Edward. When CoQ10 came out, it was very expensive. The prices come down. Incidentally, a therapeutic dose of CoQ10 is around 300 to 600 milligrams a day. That's quite a lot. Vitamin C and vitamin E as in Edward, I think, are better. But if the doctor is kicking, saying, oh, he's taken all that vitamin C, he already has a problem with the kidneys, I'm kind of worried about that, even though vitamin C has never caused a kidney stone, it might be easier to sidestep the whole kidney thing by suggesting that the person take CoQ10.
Okay, thank you. Just in advance of some of these questions, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to point out Andrew is an expert in orthomolecular medicine, not necessarily every subject that surrounds the health sphere. So some of these questions, again, might be outside things that he particularly wants to comment on, but I'll ask them anyway. This one, Andrew, is about eggs. Someone says, should I take eggs or should I not? The advice online is everything from eat half a dozen a day, they're so good for you, to don't ever eat them because they'll kill you. What's your thoughts on that?
I think eggs are very good for you. Excellent source of protein, very versatile, quick and easy to cook, and they are remarkably economical. For people that can't afford expensive protein, eggs are really a pretty good choice. You know, aside from the shell, there's no waste at all in an egg. And in my house, there's no waste of the shell because we take the shells and everybody's thinking, oh no, he does something really weird with the shells. He eats the shells, he wears them, he makes clothing out of them. No, 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 no. We take the eggshells and we crush them up and put them in the garden. So everything grows better with eggshells. Eggs are a wonderful food. They contain lecithin, they contain protein. There's just so much I can say that's good about eggs. If you can buy organic, that's good. If you can't, get fresh eggs. How do you know a fresh egg? Well, when you open it up, if you put that egg on a little dish, if the yolk is sticking up nice and high, that generally means the egg is fresh. Some people say brown eggs, white eggs, which are better. I don't think there's really a difference. Organic, inorganic, free range, or cage, I think that's just common sense. You know as well as I do that if the chickens eat organic food and get to run around a little bit, they're probably going to be happier, healthier chickens. Probably the eggs are healthier, but even plain old commercial eggs are good food. So eggs are good, and I would say enjoy eggs. I raised my kids with eggs, and this was back in the 70s and 80s when everybody and their brother was telling you, don't eat eggs, and don't have cream, and don't have butter. And I said, bull-loney. I'd worked on a dairy farm as a milker. I saw this up close and personal, and I gave my kids cream, and I gave my kids butter, and I gave my kids eggs, and they are strapping, healthy, well, they're not really youngsters anymore, with families of their own and well into their 30s and late 30s, but you get the idea. Eggs are good for you. Have some.
Okay. This person asks, would you please discuss whether niacin has an effect on high cholesterol?
Yes, it does. A profound effect. In my book, Niacin, the Real Story, co-authored with the great niacin pioneer, Dr. Abram Hoffer of British Columbia, Canada, we talk about this a lot. If you were going to take one single thing that you could take, one single nutrient, one single step that you could do to lower your LDL, the bad cholesterol, and especially raise your HDL, the good cholesterol, and lower your triglycerides, it would be niacin. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,000 to 5,000 milligrams of niacin a day is commonly given by physicians. Niacin is safe. There was a big flap on the media not too long ago when niacin was blamed for side effects that were caused by a drug that was being given along with the niacin. They blamed the niacin, the problem was the drug. Well, that's the mass media for you. At dryourself.com, at my website, I have a link to a video that you can watch where I kind of take on the news media, shall we say, and set them straight, and hopefully can benefit you as well, talking about the safety of niacin. According to a past president of the American College of Cardiologists, quoted in the New York Times, niacin is really it, he said. Nothing else comes close. So niacin is cheap, effective, and safe. When you take niacin, you will have a flush. You need to be ready for that. If you can't stand that, you can use inositol hexaniacinate. More on niacin in my book, Niacin, the Real Story. And this book, I think, would be just right for someone that wants to know all about the flush and all about the side effects and how to use niacin intelligently. Remember, if you take a lot of niacin, you're going to have a flush. Be ready for it. The flush is harmless, but it does cause some people a little bit of consternation. I kind of like it myself.
This one is about the animal kingdom. I know the vitamin course is oriented to humans, but I wonder whether you know of any research on arthritis in dogs. I've had a lot of success with niacin myself, but I hesitate to give it to my dog without experience. And can I just ask you, can a dog get a niacin flush?
None have ever told me that they were having one, but then I don't speak foreign languages very well. However, I'm sure you'd agree that I even have trouble with the King's English. All right, the Queen's. The best approach for animals and arthritis, in my opinion, is to take a look at the work that's been done with animals and arthritis, and that brings us to Dr. Francis M. Pottinger, Jr. Dr. Pottinger was a medical doctor. He studied cats. That's not a dog, but it's closer to a dog than a human is. Dr. Pottinger found that lousy food causes all kinds of illnesses in cats. Cooked food, he noted, caused cats to have the same problems that people had: heart disease, allergies, arthritis, reproductive issues, skin problems. And Pottinger took cats that had been raised on cooked food and were getting sick and had all the diseases of civilization. And when he put them on a raw food diet, they got better. I think there's a message in there for everyone. I've worked with people with arthritis, and when they went to a mostly raw food diet, their arthritis went away. My mother is a perfect example. She had arthritis in her 50s, and it bugged her enough where she was willing to, if you can believe this, just brace yourself. Here's another one of these Saul family heritage stories being trotted out for your amusement. My mother decided that she would eat sprouts, and interestingly, she liked lentil sprouts. Lentils can be sprouted in just a day, day and a half. Lentils are very cheap, they're high protein. When they're sprouted, they're particularly good for you, and for every morning for breakfast, she would have a big bowl of raw lentil sprouts with molasses. Now that sounds a little bit odd, but she's the one who got rid of her arthritis.
Wow. Well, I'm 51 and I've both hips replaced before I knew any of this stuff, so certainly arthritis is a major issue for a lot of people.
It is. The Garrison program, based on vegetable juices and organic food and no junk, is a very good start. Niacinamide was used by Dr. William Kaufman to cure arthritis back in the 1940s and 50s. The complete text of Dr. Kaufman's book on curing the common form of joint dysfunction using niacinamide, a form of niacin, is at dryourself.com. You can read the whole thing. This is a medical doctor who treated with niacin. Dr. Garrison treated using organic juices and organic food. There are doctors that have used fasting. And I think the most important thing to recognize here is that we have arthritis for a reason. Take a look at your dinner plate. It's staring back at you. The junk that we eat has an awful lot to do with the arthritis that we develop. Don't let it happen to you. Change right now. If you don't have it, prevent it. And if you have it, do what one client that I had did. She just started juice fasting. She would live on vegetable juices 1 week out of every 2, and she did that for about 8 months. She had severe rheumatoid arthritis, and I saw her at the end of this period, and I thought it was a different woman. She had completely recovered her range of motion in her hands. I said, "Hey, what did you do?" And she said, "What do you mean, what did I do? I've been juicing for the last 8 months." And I thought, ooh, right. That's what she did. It sure worked for her.
Excellent. This is from Neil, and I think Neil's from Dublin. Neil's another one who's gone through the course. Could you tell us your top tips to help improve brain function, such as memory and quicker thinking?
Turn the TV off. Next question, Carl. No, seriously. Lecithin is good. Lecithin contains choline, a neurotransmitter. Vitamin C is good because it helps you make the neurotransmitter epinephrine. It's a good idea to avoid sugar and junk food because that's just going to set your moods off the wrong way. The B-complex vitamins certainly have a role here. It's actually a pretty big question and there's a pretty big answer, but as you look into this, you're going to find that moving in the direction of the plant-based, vitamin-supplemented, lots of vegetable-juiced organic diet is your best bet.
I know you made that comment tongue-in-cheek, but I know it was semi-serious as well. I actually noticed today, Andrew, myself, I sat and watched the news and I came away extremely depressed because this whole ISIS stuff and the amount of horrors in the world, how big an effect does that have on our health if we suck too much of that stuff in?
It's huge. We live in a world where people are stressed enough, and to make them more stressed and do so with the glee that I see in the news media, I think is a real mistake. The way out of this is to turn around and walk away from it. My mother used to look at a Sears catalog when we got these as kids, and as children, of course, we'd go through that Sears catalog and we were just wild with avarice. And there were all those things that excited our desire to own, shall we say, and we would tease relentlessly and without the slightest chance of success. My mother's response when she looked through the Sears catalog was, "Look at all the things we can do without." I think this is the answer. You have to have the straight face test. You have to have the common sense test. Is it good for you? Is it really helping you? Is knowing all about this bad stuff helping you go out and solve the problem? If so, good. But if you already know we've got problems, just get to work and let's forget that intermediate step where we sit around and just wallow in it. Let's either be part of the solution or admit that we're part of the problem. I think that the information that we need is already in our hands. I've been saying this now for nearly 40 years. There is a whole body of knowledge out there. The research has already been done. My latest book is called The Orthomolecular Treatment of Chronic Disease. 800 pages of research that's already been done showing that vitamins cure disease if you give high doses. It's just a matter of reading it and applying it. Let's apply the knowledge we have. The world will be a different place.
This one's from Jason. I've recently started increasing a dosage of niacin below flush and vitamin C, as well as begun to take a high-potency multivitamin and MSM. I'm feeling great, but I've experienced some itchy skin around the hips. There was a rash at one point early on, but that has cleared up. Is it possible one of these supplements could cause such a reaction on its own or in combination?
Sure, the niacin could do that as part of the niacin flush. A lot of people, when they take a lot of niacin, at least for the first 2 or 3 weeks, notice itchiness. I've been taking niacin now forever, and I still occasionally will notice some itchiness here and there, almost like there's like a mosquito bite or something, and I realize, no, it's just a little bit of the niacin flush. The flush is harmless. Again, if the itchiness bothers you with niacin, you can take no flush niacin, and that is inositol hexaniacinate. It does not work as well as niacin, but it works. Then there's niacinamide. Niacinamide is also not going to cause a flush except in the rarest of circumstances. But niacinamide does not have blood lipid benefits. So niacinamide is not going to lower your LDL and lower your triglycerides, nor will niacinamide raise your HDL. Only niacin does that, or inositol hexaniacinate.
Okay, this one's from Chris. He says, I want to supplement K2 with vitamin D, but I can only find K1. Will that work?
I'm not an expert on that one. Vitamin K, because it's made in the colon, and most people really don't need to take it. And if they do, they can get it from things like alfalfa sprouts. It doesn't come on the radar very often. The most interesting thing I saw with vitamin K was a little girl, 10 years old, who had very dangerously low levels of platelets. Her platelet count was under 10% of normal, and she was dying. She'd been to every specialist and every doctor their parents could find, and no one could do anything about this. So I looked up platelets in a nutrition textbook, and it said vitamin C and vitamin K and the bottom line was she took 10,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day, and she ate 2 jars of alfalfa sprouts, which are high in vitamin K. Her platelet count came up to 85% of normal in 2 weeks. The girl lived. So this could have been the C. It could have been the K. She didn't care, and quite frankly, I don't either, because they're both good for you. If you need to make sure you have enough vitamin K, I would recommend that you have a plant-based diet. Supplementation with vitamin K, in my opinion, is largely optional. Supplementation with vitamin C and the B complex and vitamin E as in Edward and vitamin D is mandatory.
Okay. This one is from Sarah in Cambridge here in the UK. Sarah says, recently I got an email from Alternative Health, and they said in that, they made the statement that the body cannot absorb vitamins that are artificially produced and hence make expensive urine due to poor absorption. And the Harvard study which showed, and they referred to the Harvard study which showed earlier deaths in those that take supplements. Could you comment, please?
Sure. The vast majority of studies ever done have shown that people who take supplements live longer. Now, you can pick 1 or 2 that were engineered to fail, where they gave a low dose of a lousy vitamin. No offense to whoever makes it, but Centrum Silver is a lousy vitamin, and that vitamin keeps showing up in failed studies. Well, there you go. I mean, if you drive an Edsel, don't talk to me about how lousy my Lamborghini is, all right? By the way, I don't have a Lamborghini. And quite frankly, I think I'd like an Edsel, because that would really meet my personality right where everyone can appreciate it. A nice Edsel convertible. Wouldn't that be great for the Mega Vitamin Man? Instead of the Batmobile, we've got the Megamobile, and it's an Edsel. You know, dun, 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 dun. Okay, moving back. The question has just been allowed to escape my mind. I think I need more lecithin. What was the rest of that, Trevor?
I've just deleted it, so let me undelete it here.
We have fun with our work.
We do. Yes, it was just responding to the statement that vitamins which are artificially produced just make expensive urine.
Right, right. And wasn't the comment also made that they weren't absorbed?
Yes.
Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take a walk through the looking glass with me for a minute. The argument is that artificial vitamins are not absorbed and they just cause expensive urine. Urine is what's purified out of your blood. Your body has two aquarium filters. They're called kidneys, and they filter your blood 24 hours a day. All the junk that's in your blood from normal metabolism can be removed in various ways. And one of these ways, the primary way, is through your kidneys. So your kidneys filter your blood. And urine is purified blood. Or if you prefer, blood is purified urine. Depends how you want to look at it. But the blood is what you want. It stays in you, which is good. And the urine is what you want to get rid of in water solution, and you get rid of it. Okay? So if urine is what's purified out of your blood, nothing can be in your urine unless it was in your blood first. Ah, if it was in your blood, you must have absorbed it. When you swallow something into your mouth, into your stomach, into your intestine, if it's not absorbed, it comes out the other end into the toilet. Imagine if someone were to swallow marble. Please don't, but if someone did, it would pass right through them. It would never get absorbed. If you eat food and then someone picks you up, holds you by your ankles, and shakes you, the food that was in your stomach might come flowing out of your mouth. So this was not absorbed. It was in you geographically, but it was never absorbed. But once it crosses into your bloodstream, once you absorb the nutrients into your blood, it is in you in a real sense. So if it's in your blood, you absorbed it just fine. So how can you have expensive urine if you didn't absorb it? The answer is you do absorb it. And the reason you have, quote, expensive urine is because you have a surplus and you have enough money to waste. You have enough nutrients to waste. That is a good thing. The first sign of vitamin deficiency is an absence of vitamins in the urine. If you go to the American West and you go to Hoover Dam, if you stand at the bottom of Hoover Dam and look up, you don't know how much water's in that dam. You really don't. It might be half full, it might be quite full, it might be nearly empty. But if you look at the spillway, you can tell right away. If the spillway is closed and there's just a bunch of tumbleweed, sand, and fox dens, there's probably not a lot of extra water, and that's why they closed off the spillway, and they're keeping all the water because the water level is low. But if the water is powering down those spillways in huge cascades of millions of tons of water an hour, you know that the dam is full. Well, that's your urine. Being able to waste vitamins is a good thing. Incidentally, when you take penicillin or an antibiotic, that goes into your urine, what you don't use. Drugs give you really expensive urine. In fact, vitamin urine is cheaper than drug urine, and I think you're better off with it. So don't be buffaloed by this. Most nutritional research showing that vitamins cure disease has been done using cheap laboratory vitamins. Dose is the key. Dose is the key.
Let me ask you the question, which is the most often asked question we ever get, and we did a video on this specifically in the Mega Vitamin course, so your answer today will have to be a little briefer. But it is this thing about synthetic versus natural vitamins, GMO versus non-GMO vitamin C. That's the question everybody keeps asking. So could you address that for us?
Yes. I'm against GMO foods. I think they should be stopped. At the very least, they should be accurately labeled. However, when you actually get down to the molecular level, say vitamin C, for instance, you have C6H8O6. That is a fairly small molecule. 6 carbons, 8 hydrogens, and 6 oxygens. There is only one way they can combine to form vitamin C. It does not matter whether the food they came from happened to be GMO or not, because when you get down to the atomic level, you cannot change protons and electrons and neutrons. That requires Einstein or some kind of nuclear work that would be more suitable to a physics laboratory. But the basic biology, the basic chemistry of life is that these nutrients arrange themselves in one way, and if they don't, the nutrient doesn't work. Here's an example. If you take vitamin E as an eddy, the natural vitamin E is the right-handed molecule. The synthetic form is a mixture of right and left-handed, the DL. You should take the natural form because it works better. But with other vitamins, it literally doesn't matter. Indeed, most vitamins that most people buy are laboratory-made vitamins, no matter what the label says. Write to the manufacturer and you can find out. Ask this question: is the entire composition of vitamins, the entire label claim for this vitamin product, made up of food sources and nothing else? I have done that, and in most cases, the company will admit that they fortify it with laboratory vitamins. Laboratory vitamins are effective. I know I make everybody upset here, but I have no financial connection with the industry at all. I get no money from any supplement company. I don't have a pet brand. There aren't any Mega Vitamin Man multiples out there. The fact is that laboratory-made vitamins are effective. If we did not have them, a B-complex supplement with high doses would be the size of a hockey puck. So you have laboratory vitamins because they work, because they're affordable, and to make sure you don't have oversized giant tablets that no one would want to use.
Okay, makes total sense. Sarah, who just asked that question, by the way, says at the bottom, let me just get this. She says, great Mega Vitamin course. I've just completed the Mega Vitamin formula and it was fantastic information. So thank you, Sarah, for that. If you're interested in the course, and I know some of you are, you'll see below my name there is a web address. And if you go to that, megavitaminscourse.com/MVFSP. If you go to that, you can read all about the course. It starts again on the 13th of October. Contains 4 of these live webinars which you can ask questions in, and Andrew will answer your questions in more detail because we take a limited number of people on those. There's also 20 video lessons, one delivered every day, coming to over 400 minutes of video. There's also 4 interviews with Andrew, video interviews, and lots more stuff you can read about if you go to that link. I'm not going to go through the whole stuff now, but if you want to find out more about that, just follow that link and that will give you some more information. This one is sort of related to what you just answered, Andrew. What do you think of using this sort of thing? Has never sort of crossed my radar before. What do you think of using the dirt cheap clays to detox? Clays, as in CLAYS. Foot soak versus ingesting versus putting some in your socks every day. That's from Steve.
Well, I don't know. I haven't tried it. If it doesn't hurt you, I'm not against it. I think the best way to detox is juice fasting. Vegetable juice fasting sure cleaned me out. I had gained 45 pounds over the years, and I know that's hard to believe, but I had to take my own advice, and I had to lose some weight. Why? Because my blood pressure had been creeping up along with my weight. So when I was at a toxic 236, I started doing a lot of vegetable juice. Lost 45 pounds. Now I'm a lean, mean fighting machine at 191. And I can tell you that if you drink lots of vegetable juices, you're going to clean out, okay? And if you take saturation levels of vitamin C, you're going to clean out that way as well. That works just fine for me. But as far as the use of topical therapy or magnesium baths, Epsom salts baths, the mud packs, or the other things, if it doesn't hurt and you can afford it, I'm glad it's helping you.
Okay, this one is from Cindy, who says, I so appreciate your work on vitamins and juicing. It's really helped open my eyes and helped me with my health issues. I haven't been to the doctor in 3 years, nor taken any pain medications for arthritis. No hospitalizations and no allergies in my body. My question is, I am concerned about the ingredients in the vitamins themselves and their origin. Back to this. Is it true that all ascorbic acid in this country comes from China and is made from GMO corn? There are so many supplements out there. I'm doing my own research, as you've suggested, but I do get a little fearful of ingredients. I've been megadosing the vitamin C in response to some kind of lung infection. I'm almost completely better, but I took huge amounts of ascorbate, so naturally when I read this, I'm a little concerned.
Well, I take huge amounts of vitamin C as ascorbic acid. Most ascorbic acid does come from China. There's 2 reasons for this. A whole lot of stuff comes from China because it's cheaper. And the second reason is the Chinese developed a very efficient way of producing ascorbic acid more easily and with less cost. So they cornered the market. To some extent, the price will go up and be manipulated here and there. Ascorbic acid powder, though, is cheap. You can get it for less than $20 a pound. I've seen it for closer to $10 a pound on the internet. Is it made from GMO corn? I would say it's likely, even probable. Does it matter? No. Refer to my earlier question. I am opposed to GMOs. I think we should stand up to them, but you cannot let your kid be sick tonight if the child has a fever or the flu, or somebody has a virus, or somebody has pneumonia. You've got to give them the vitamin C now. We can't wait for our slow-acting government to do the right thing. Therefore, you need to know that because atoms can arrange themselves only one way to form vitamin C, it simply doesn't matter where they come from. And I quote on this the authority of Linus Pauling, two-time Nobel Prize-winning chemist. An authority on this, Pauling explains this in his books. So vitamin C as ascorbic acid does work. If you want to spend the money to get vitamin C from beet tops or from cabbage extract or from acerola cherries, just make sure you're actually getting what you think you're getting. Write to the manufacturer and make sure you have full disclosure of where every milligram comes from in that tablet. Don't pay a food source price for a synthetic product. Just buy the cheap stuff at the big box department store. Now, once again, I annoy everyone with this, but that's too bad. With vitamin C, it is all about dose. You have to take enough, you have to divide that dose, and you have to use your noggin. Bowel tolerance is your guide. If you have your symptoms, you took too little. If you're feeling great, you did it right. If you have loose stools, you're taking too much. It's like being a pilot. Fly above the mountains and below the stars.
Could you very briefly, Andrew, address the marketing angle of vitamins? Because, like you say, if I go into a Walmart, for example, I can get plain vitamin C, I can get vitamin C with rose hips, I can get vitamin C with something else. Can you address the way that vitamins, like every other commodity, have a base level and a level that they try to persuade you is worth 3 times the money?
Yes, that's a very good question, Trevor, and I think a lot of people have this on their minds. The amount of rose hips that they put in a tablet is pretty small. I mean, we're talking milligrams here. A gram, 1,000 milligrams, is a quarter of a teaspoon. And I would say most rose hips vitamin C preparations have much less than a gram of rose hips in there. So we're talking milligrams of rose hips. When I go for hikes, I look for rose hips. Wild rose bushes have fruits. They look like little orange marbles, and they actually look like tiny little orange turnips. And these are rose hips. They're full of seeds inside, and you can chew on these things, and if you want rose hips, go out and graze for them like I do. The amount of rose hips in a rose hip C preparation is just small enough to be useless and just large enough so they can say that it's in there and they can charge you more for it. Don't fall for that. The bioflavonoids that are found in rose hips are also found in buckwheat, green peppers, and fruits, particularly that white inner pith in grapefruit and lemons and limes and oranges. You want your bioflavonoids, eat that. Don't waste money on it. When you have a product like vitamin C, or for that matter, any vitamin product, you always have people that are trying to say that my brand is better, because they have a vested interest in saying so. And they usually then say that somebody else's brand is bad. And I've seen in the natural health industry people actually saying the other form doesn't work or it's dangerous. That is hogwash. Vitamin C works. There's a lot of ways to get it. You get the brand that works for you. I never make a brand suggestion, never have, don't plan to start now. Use your common sense. But remember this. They're trying to get your money. You have to be a savvy consumer, and that means you got to read the label, contact the company, and really do some research here. If you want to just go off and buy whatever somebody tells you, go ahead. But wouldn't you check consumer reports before you buy a washing machine? Wouldn't you check Amazon's reviews before you order a DVD, a monitor, or a computer? Wouldn't you tend to want to look into this? Well, your health is at least that important. So do not assume that because somebody told you that it's true. And that goes for me, too. I invite you to look and verify what I've said. And what you will find is that almost all research showing that vitamins work in high doses has used the cheapest vitamins available. They did it. I do it. You can do it.
Okay, this comes from Erica. I love your brevity, Erica. I wish everyone could put their questions like this. Erica's question just says, migraines, which remedy? Raw juice, Gerson therapy, megavitamins, or all of them? Migraines are horrid, she says.
All of them. Gerson therapy was developed by Dr. Max Gerson because he had migraines. He was known as the migraine doctor. Then he found out it cured other stuff as well, which is wonderful. Lots of water can help. Niacin can help. Avoiding things that provoke migraines can help. Some people are very sensitive to foods. Reducing stress can help. All of these things are good. Try them all. No easy answer. May I suggest you read a book called The Vitamin Cure for Migraines by Dr. Steve Hickey. Steve is a vitamin C expert in England, and he is a migraine sufferer. So if you want to hear about megavitamin therapy from a person who has learned the hard way, you pick up a copy of The Vitamin Cure for Migraines by Dr. Hickey.
Okay, this one is from Mary Lou, who is from Wicklow in Ireland, and she puts this in a way that only the Irish people can, warmly. Dear Andrew, please can you tell me if vitamins might help in the case of two 50, 60-year-old women? One has hypothyroid and the other Hashimoto's. The one with sorry if I said that wrong. The one with hypothyroid has serious obesity and lymphedema of the legs. The other with Hashimoto's has a hysterectomy 2 years ago because of endometrial cancer. These ladies are my sister and my sister-in-law. We love them very much and really want to help them. Both are more than willing to take supplements. One struggles with diet, the other is more flexible. Anything I should suggest to them?
Yeah, start by addressing the struggle with the diet, because that's the real problem. If someone doesn't want to change their diet and just wants to take stuff out of a bottle, well, you can go in and fight the world heavyweight champion with one arm tied behind your back if you want to, but I don't think that's a good plan. Look, if you know what's wrong, if you know you're overweight and you know your diet's bad, start there. You're going to have to change your diet. Go plant-based, do some exercise, and address the fact that this is a lifestyle change and it is hard to do. You see, this is a simple solution, but it's not an easy solution. In fact, it's the hardest solution in the world. As far as supplements go, good multi every meal, extra C, extra E, CoQ10 might be a good idea, extra vitamin D if you live north of the equator by more than a few meters. These things will help you. Gerson therapy, organic food, detox the body with lots of vegetable juices, improve your nutrition, take the metabolic therapy approach. So the short answer is get on the Gerson program or a modification of it, do the juices, you're going to lose the weight, you're going to feel better, try it, you'll like it. If you don't try it, you can't simply say, well, where's the magic bullet vitamin? Ladies and gentlemen, there isn't a magic bullet vitamin.
Yeah. This one's from Irina, and she says, many of my patients with known BRCA gene are asking if at least 200 mcg of selenium will help them correct this gene malfunction. Do you have any opinion on that?
I don't have an intelligent opinion on that, so I'm going to say that 200 micrograms of selenium cannot hurt, and it is worth trying, but I would have to research that, and I hope you will.
Okay, I would point out Andrew hasn't seen a lot of these questions in advance because there were so many and so many came in late. So, how do you get cholesterol levels up above 160, which is the point where people have problems making hormones? What should we be looking at?
We should be looking at a diet that lets your body do the balancing for you. Earlier, I mentioned how niacin lowers LDL and triglycerides. It does. If you're on statins or some other drug, use niacin instead. But it is infinitely better to do a complete lifestyle and dietary change and address the problem where it really starts. Dr. Dean Ornish, the original Dr. Benjamin Spock, the pediatrician, and many other physicians have come out in favor of a plant-based diet. So did Dr. Max Gerson, and for that matter, so did Albert Einstein. This is really the way to approach it. I know I'm the mega vitamin man, but I'm usually accused of being a rampant apologist for vegetarianism. I'm not. I'm not a vegetarian, but I have a plant-based diet. There is a difference. A plant-based diet is mostly from plants, hence the name. And there's some animal products in there. There's some dairy products, yogurt and cheese and eggs, of course, and some meat and some fish. I think fish is a fabulous food, just like I think eggs are a fabulous food. Get the best quality you can. Let's try for wild caught. And let's try to make our oceans cleaner so the fishing industry and those of us that depend on it are getting good quality fish. Honestly, you have to remember that supplements are just that. Supplements help you out. Go to the food sources. When in doubt, start juicing. Of all the advice I've given in nearly 40 years, the one I've seen help the most people is when they really go nuts with vegetable juicing. I know those infomercials on TV are a pain, but they're basically right.
Okay, couple of questions regarding depression and niacin. This one's quite long, but it's interesting. After a long battle with, no, sorry, I almost said a long bottle with alcoholism, a long battle with alcoholism and depression, I decided to try niacin treatment. At first I was taking 1,000 milligrams 3 times a day for several weeks with no apparent change. Then I decided to up the dosage and was taking up to 9 grams per day, 9,000 milligrams. Then the change came gradually, but surely I hadn't been happier and healthier in years. I was also taking a high-potency multivitamin, B-complex, zinc, and chromium, as you suggested. For almost 3 months, I was a very happy camper and full of energy. Then all of a sudden, I started noticing my vision was getting a bit blurry until I could hardly even read a book or an email. After a visit to the eye doctor, I got diagnosed with a bilateral cystoid macular edema. I refused to take the drugs they prescribed and did some research and found that in some people taking niacin, it could actually cause this. So instead, I did an experiment of quitting the niacin as well as the B-complex, and sure enough, my vision seemed to go back to normal. I'd really hate to have to discontinue the niacin because my mental health and energy has changed for the worse since discontinuing it. Any suggestions?
Yes, you're describing a rare side effect with niacin therapy, and it's good you went to the eye doctor. Good for you. We do discuss this in my book, Niacin, the Real Story. And I had that chapter vetted by a retinal neurologist from an Ivy League university in the United States. And his comment was, yes, niacin can cause this. It doesn't very often. But when it does, it's picked up at any eye exam early in the game. Having said that, it might not be possible for you to take niacin, but it might be possible for you to substitute inositol hexaniacinate, the no-flush form. It might be possible for you to substitute niacinamide, which is also a form that doesn't cause a flush. I am not sure about this. This is something that you need to do in cooperation with your eye doctor. You are in a tough spot. If you don't take the niacin, you have the symptoms. If you do take the niacin, you're seeing the side effect. Let's try a form of niacin that causes less chance of the side effect. Because any drug that you take, as I think you have indicated in your comments, is likely to be even worse than the side effects you get from the vitamin. See, there's no simple answer here, and I wish there were. The best approach right now is trial and error. And doctors do this all the time. A therapeutic trial is how most physicians try most drugs with most patients. So maybe if you take niacinamide or inositol hexaniacinate, it would work better for you. Let us know, please.
Okay, staying with niacin, this is from Doug and Gail Johnson, and they're asking your position on the safety of niacin, given last week's news that the medical community stated niacin is not effective nor safe in the treatment of high cholesterol. The statement that niacin is not safe or effective in treating high cholesterol is simply wrong. Let's leave it there. Go to dryourself.com if you would, and please look at my video where I debunk this nonsense. The media is trying to tell you that niacin is harmful. It isn't. It was given with a drug. It's the drug that's harmful. That drug had actually been rejected for FDA approval. That drug had actually been taken off the market. They still gave the drug with the niacin, and lo and behold, there was a problem. Gee, didn't see that coming, did we? So they blame the vitamin instead of the drug. My father used to say, when you want to really know something, go to the organ grinder, not the monkey. My mentor was Dr. Abram Hoffer, who
did the very first double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical tests in nutrition in the history of psychiatry back in 1953, 54, 55. Dr. Hoffer, my co-author for Niacin, the Real Story, is the world authority. We also wrote a book called Orthomolecular Medicine for Everyone, and then there's the new book, The Orthomolecular Treatment of Chronic Disease. If you want to know the details of niacin therapy and just how it works and just how effective and safe it is and about the side effects, of which there are some, you're going to have to do some reading. Niacin is safer than any drug. Is it perfect? No. The standard is not perfection. The standard is the alternative.
Yeah, it's been a huge help to me with the depression issues that I came to this with a couple of years ago. Another one on niacin. This is from Holly, and she says, I have an 11-year-old girl who takes 500 mils of vitamin C every day. I'm increasing it slowly. Other than melatonin, what can I give her to help her to sleep? Can she take niacin? Is that safe for her?
Children can take niacin. I have a granddaughter who gets little smidges of it every now and again. Seems to work for her. You can also give children a diet that doesn't have any junk in it, no artificial colors, no sugar, and no caffeine. Those things will send a kid off. And you can keep them away from television or other stimulating, overstimulating things that they might see on a video screen. Common sense makes sense. Exercise, good way to help a kid. You know, that old phrase, he's going to sleep tonight. When you have an active child, they tend to sleep better. When you have a well-nourished child, they tend to sleep better. Want to use a little niacin, that's fine. But let's go after the big stuff before we take too much time on the tablet. I taught every grade there is in school. I've had children and now grandchildren. I'm here to tell you what my great-grandmother said is still basically right. And that is the old-fashioned ways have a lot to them. So before we look for some technological solution, let's look for the basic ones. A really good thing for kids is exercise. Get them moving. I used to think physical education was a waste of taxpayers and education budgets when I was a boy, because I didn't care for gym class, quite frankly. But when I became a teacher, I thought, wow, they really need this. They really need that PT, that physical training. And make sure the child has these other things as well. No junk, no sugar, no colors. Turn off the darn television, go out and play, and take a little niacin if you want.
Yeah, I've got a 13-year-old who would live in front of his computer if I would allow him to. And I've persuaded him. I bought him a bicycle a couple of weeks ago, and we go cycling in the mountains for a couple of hours on a Sunday morning. And the difference in that kid when he comes back from 2 hours cycling rather than dragging him off 2 hours of a computer is just night and day.
I saw that with my son. Of course, this was a long time ago, and the big video game was either Mario Brothers or Tetris. Sorry, we're talking a while ago, ladies and gentlemen. This is my Abe Lincoln story for you. But I remember that boy, and if he spent a few hours doing that, he was really pretty pumped. He was wired. He was frazzled. But then he wanted to be a baseball player. So I would go out and hit balls to him and throw grounders and hit high pops, and I would shoot one ball at this end of the field, and then I'd hit it to the other end of the field, and I'd have him running back and forth on the hypotenuse of this triangle. So I'd throw it over here, and then I'd hit it over there, and I ran him right ragged. And it's hard to take a 14-year-old kid and make them exhausted where they lie down in the field. That's how tired he got. The kid slept.
Okay, antidepressants, last question. I've just lost it. Just give me 1 second. There we go. This is from Charlene, and she says, I've been on a high dose of antidepressants for about 10 years now, Cymbalta. However, I feel they are of no benefit to me and have tried withdrawal a number of times, but failed due to the shocking side effects it brings. Are there any vitamins or minerals I could take to help me get me off these meds? I believe my current dose of 120 is totally dulling my senses. I know niacin is a good vitamin to take, but I can't handle the flush. Can I get the same benefits from niacin non-flush?
The answer to that is pretty much. Niacinamide works almost as well as niacin, and inositol hexaniacinate works about half as well as niacin. Dr. Abram Hoffer would tell you, you don't like the flush, if you take the niacin, in 2 to 3 weeks it'll be gone. Dr. Hoffer would say, bite the bullet, get used to the flush, and don't worry about it. But you do have the no flush alternatives. Caution. When you've been on a medication like you've been on for as long as you've been on it for a condition like you have, you can't just stop. I think you know that because you use the word withdrawal. The withdrawal process here is going to take a long time, and you must work with your doctor. This is not a drill. You are working without a net. You have a problem for which you've been heavily medicated for a long time, and if you go off it suddenly, life might not get any better. Indeed, it could get worse. But if you gradually come off it while introducing the niacin, substituting one over time for the other, working with your doctor, you've got a good chance. Indeed, if you add vitamin C to this equation and a plant-based diet, and here it comes again, exercise, go out and play. Walk, bike, swim, do yoga, whatever it is you like to do, this will help you. Keep in mind that sugar will make these problems worse. Everybody says, yes, 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 fine, let's get back to the vitamins. No, we're going to talk about this. Not for long, but here it is. Sugar is not your friend. Whatever your problem is, sugar will make it worse. So watch for that. Watch for stimulants, caffeine. Watch for artificial colors and junk food. These things will make your symptoms worse. You can use the niacin. You can increase it gradually. You have to decrease the drug gradually. You need to work with your doctor. This is important. Let's make sure we don't go off half-cocked on this. We have to be very respectful of just what a big job you have. Having said that, I have worked with people that did what you did and tell you that it took a while and it took vitamins and it wasn't smooth sailing the whole way. The vitamins help to take the edge off, but it will take a while. I congratulate you on your effort and I wish you success.
Okay, this one is from someone called Veronique. Beautiful name. She says, I'm writing from France. I follow your info on the net and I've read your books. My 4-year-old son has cystic fibrosis. Can you give me any advice as far as vitamins and supplements? He is underweight and has difficulties gaining weight. He is never really hungry and eats very small portions. Any help would be much appreciated.
Vegetable juicing is the very first thing I would try. The absorption is so good, and most kids, not all, but most kids will tolerate it. Most kids like the taste of carrot juice. Tastes like a carrot milkshake. Refrigerate the container, refrigerate the carrots, keep it nice and cold, let them help you juice, and I would even go so far as to give them an incentive. Offer them a prize. If they do their juicing for 2 weeks, give them something they want. I think bribery is okay when it's for a good cause. The other thing to keep in mind is vitamin C is always a good idea. Probably vitamin E is an Edward. Good multivitamin with each meal would be a good idea. If you can get the child to eat right and take supplements and do the vegetable juices, I think you will be well on your way. That is probably not the whole answer. I wish it were. But to not do these things would be a mistake.
Okay, another one about a child. About 4 months ago, my child was unable to go to the toilet. When I took her to the doctor, she was put on Lactulose. That's a UK laxative. I'm not sure if that's a generic term or not. But basically, this child has been on this ever since for 4 months, this to make her go to the toilet. And now her mother's afraid that her bowel basically has lost the muscles around it, and she can't actually know when she needs to go to the toilet. How would you start to wean someone off something like this?
Well, going back to my own experience, I can tell you what my mom did. She took a medication that seemed to have a side effect of constipation. She had grand mal epilepsy, and she took one or more drugs for that. Therefore, she took a laxative on a regular basis. Okay, there's the setup. You ready? Alrighty. So she came to see us, and we had a plant-based diet with lots of fiber. And my mother, after having our meals for a little while, continued to take her laxative until one day she was too far away from the bathroom downstairs, and there was a spectacular demonstration of just what happens when you have a laxative overdose. You understand? You can read between the lines here, can you? An hour and a half and a fumigation later, we came to the conclusion that a plant-based diet that is high in fiber is a very, very good way to solve a constipation problem. All right, now I'm going to take the gloves off. Any kid that's on a laxative is being mistreated. That's wrong. That's just wrong. If you give them a high fiber plant-based diet, you're never going to have this problem. And if you have anything close to constipation, high doses of vitamin C will take care of it. Extra magnesium will take care of it. Or do what we did with my friend next door when he came over for lunch. We gave him prunes, stewed prunes. Now, my mom, who had no special gift for culinary science, would serve desserts like that embarrassed me. Other mothers served ice cream and cake and Hostess cupcakes and Twinkies and stuff that kids would actually want to eat, you know, donuts and Danishes. But my mom would put out something like stewed prunes. And I loved eating in other kids' houses, but once in a while they braved and came over and had lunch with me. So my friend was eating these stewed prunes, and he loved them. He just loved them, and he asked for more. And my mother was so flattered that finally somebody liked what she put out that she gave him more stewed prunes. And then when he left, she counted the pits, and there were 27 pits on his plate. This kid is 11. So she called up his mother and said, "I am so sorry. I was out in the kitchen, and he liked them so much, I didn't realize he had that many." And the whole thing came out the next day or two or three. And what we have here is a perfect example. You know, you have so many things. You have magnesium supplementation, you have prunes, you have castor oil. Remember castor oil? Kids hate castor oil. It's a terrific laxative. Did you know you don't have to drink it? The doctor and mom and grandma and Uncle Bill never told you this. You know how you can take castor oil or give it to a child? You just rub it on their skin. They absorb it through the skin and it has the laxative effect. You don't even have to drink the glop. So all of these things are laxatives, but you really don't want a laxative at all. Castor oil is just a different laxative. Prunes are sort of a laxative, but fiber is health maintenance. So give your kids a high fiber, plant-based diet. You're not going to have a constipation problem.
I wish my mom had known that about castor oil, I tell you. This has got some. No, it's good. This is from Pat, who says, "I am being weaned from Vivel.bioidentical hormone prescription, and I'm starting to suffer menopausal symptoms, including hot flashes and memory loss. Any natural remedies you could advise?"
The day I come up with a cure for the hot flash is the day that I'm going to be so wealthy that you're not going to find me on the internet because I'm going to be in Barbados. Okay, but there is so much interest in this hot flash thing. Do the best you can. Some people find that simple things like more water and exercise help. Other people find to avoid certain foods that trigger problems. Other people find there's absolutely nothing they can do and there's no rhyme or reason to it. Sometimes hot flashes just come and go as the cycle works its way through. Sometimes, from what women have told me, especially women, they're there forever. Vitamin E as an Edward might help. Some women report 1,200 units a day or so of vitamin E reduces hot flashes. I would talk to your doctor. If the doctor gives you medical prescriptions, you might want to go on the internet and see if there are any natural analogs to that. Basically, I would say that I don't have the problem. I know people who do. I don't have the answer, and I am eagerly awaiting the results of your inquiries.
Okay. Some of these, you know, are very short questions, but you can tell there are years of pain behind them. And this is probably one of those questions. It's from June, who says, "Is there a vitamin C protocol for severe chronic Lyme's with comorbidity? It is in my brain wreaking complete havoc. I am nearly 65. IV therapy is not available where I am."
Taking vitamin C orally is almost as good as taking it intravenously if you take enough, you take it often, and you keep taking it. If you want to try vitamin C for this, and I certainly think that is a sound idea, you can just take vitamin C very, very often. I've taken vitamin C to the tune of 2,000 milligrams every 6 minutes I'm awake. That's 20,000 milligrams an hour. When I had influenza not too long ago, I was really, really sick. I was taking 35,000 milligrams of vitamin C per dose. You heard that right. That is a ridiculous amount of vitamin C, but I was really pretty sick. And I got rid of the symptoms of influenza in less than 2 days. But the amount of vitamin C I took was right off the scale. Remember, not everyone should be taking this much. For those of you that are listening, for those of you that are watching, you hear people talking about lots of C, you hear me mentioning it. You hear them talking about huge amounts of niacin, but you're not them. Sick bodies need more. A dry sponge holds more milk. Everybody's different. You just take enough nutrients that get you well. It's not a contest to see how much you can hold, and it's not a matter of economics to see how much you can afford to buy. It's a matter of what gets the job done. Results is all that matters. Do what works. So in this particular case, that would be my recommendation. Does that answer the question?
Yes, I think so. Question, Andrew, actually about your father and his experience with health. This is from Dr. John Lamont. He says, you've stated a few times that your father suffered from angina years ago and you started him on vitamin E. He never complained of chest pain again. In fact, you stated when you asked him he couldn't even remember that he had chest pain. My question has two parts and is related to your father, as we all care about our own fathers. I understand if you can't talk specifically about your father, then perhaps you could do so hypothetically. Did he do anything else apart from taking vitamin E, i.e. change his diet in some way, take additional medication or other vitamins or minerals, or increase his exercise? And secondly, you state your body will tell you when you're taking the right amount of vitamin E. What convinced your father to stop at 1,600 milligrams?
Those are very astute questions. Very good indeed. First of all, I can talk about my father all I want because he died in 1996. But he did not die of a heart condition. He did not die of angina. In fact, once he started taking the vitamin E, he never had any symptoms at all of angina ever again in his entire life. Having said that, what he basically did was he had been diagnosed with angina by a specialist, and he had been given a medication which he didn't like. He didn't like the side effects. So he said to me, Andrew, any of your vitamins good for this? And I said, well, as a matter of fact, Doctors Wilford and Evan Shute used vitamin E as an Edward for angina. How much of this stuff do I have to take? He said. And I said, well, I'm not sure, but a lot. What you might want to do is start at 200 and gradually work up until you get results. Might be 3,600 before you get results. It's kind of an open question. So he took 200 for a couple weeks. He took 400, 600, 800. He started to feel something better around 1,000. And at 1,600 units a day, the symptoms were gone. Now, I don't remember the details because I wasn't with him in the office, but he was off the medication entirely, and he took no medications whatsoever for angina or any other cardiovascular issue. He did have a couple of hip replacements, and he had a problem with tinnitus, which is mentioned at my website and in my book, Doctor Yourself. For that, he took vitamin B12, and he went to a chiropractor. As far as what else he did for his angina, the biggest single conspicuous thing he did was he juiced. He did vegetable juicing, and he also took multivitamins and extra C, but in garden variety amounts. It was basically high doses of vitamin E, and I can say this because he started juicing after the angina was gone. What else is in that question that I didn't address?
I think that's the most of it.
Is that a good start?
Yeah, absolutely.
His whole story is at dryourself.com. Just do a search there for father, and you can read about the angina episode. You can read about the Meniere's disease that he had. He had very good success with both of these, I'm happy to say.
And you say he had 2 hip replacements, Andrew?
He did. The first time he had a hip replacement, he got pneumonia while he was in the hospital, and he was there for 3.5 weeks. The second time, we saw the writing on the wall, and we loaded him up on vitamins, and he was quite willing to do that. He took lots and lots of vitamin C and other nutrients, and he was out of there in 4 days walking. It was a spectacular, speedy recovery. By the way, what he died from was he went in for routine surgery when he was 75, and he got a hospital-based infection, and he died of pneumonia. The hospital was very, very resistant to give him vitamin C, When they gave him vitamin C intravenously, because we actually forced them to and got an attorney to help us on this, he was getting vitamin C intravenously on the regular ward, and he was getting better. But he had some spells, and when they moved him to intensive care, they wouldn't let him take the vitamin C. As a result, his health went up and down and up and down, and ultimately he died of pneumonia. Pneumonia kills a lot of people, by the way. High doses of vitamin C, as Dr. Cathcart pointed out, and Dr. Conner pointed out, a chest physician, who cured viral pneumonia in 72 hours with high doses of C, is related to the use of dose. The vitamin C has to be given in 50, 100,000 milligrams a day. If by intravenous infusion, you can get away with maybe 20 or 30. We could not get the hospital to give more than 4 or 5. It was impossible. And I believe that that put my father at a fatal disadvantage. I'm never going to let that happen again. And I hope you won't either.
And I take it the arthritis never spread to his hands, because he was a wonderful artist, wasn't he?
He was, thank you. He had a problem with trigger finger. But then, in the old days, he would use lead-based paints, and there is some possibility that he had some lead toxicity there. But he did have very good success. It was my mother that actually had the arthritis and took the sprouts. But my dad did pretty well as far as arthritis went. I don't remember him having arthritis. The hip replacements, yes, he did have to have those done. But what I find interesting is how when he took lots of C, he was out in 4 days, and when he didn't, he had pneumonia and was in there for over 3 weeks. And of course, the next time he was in the hospital and didn't have enough vitamin C, he never came out. We're all wounded healers, ladies and gentlemen. We've all suffered. We've all lost people near and dear to us. Why do you think I do the work that I do? I don't want this to happen again, ever. Not to anyone I know, not to a family member, and not to anyone you know. This is serious. This is life or death. I may smile a lot. I may kid a lot, but the fact is, this is very, very serious. We are all in this together, and nobody gets out alive. Let's see what we can do to help people be well. Nutrition and vitamin supplementation and cheap vitamin C and lots of it and vegetable juices sound too simple to work. Yeah? Well, that doesn't change the truth. We've been taught to be good consumers of medicine. We're going to take the responsibility ourselves and do a better job.
Yeah, absolutely. The next one is from Mark. Mark is someone else who went through the Megavitamin course, and I've just had a couple of people ask me for details of that again. So if you look on the screen just under my name there, you'll see the web address, www.megavitaminscourse.com/MVFSP. And if you want more information on the course, which starts for the 3rd time on the 13th of October, you can get it by going to that web address, and that'll give you all the information on the various many hours of video teaching that's available there. So go to that link and you can find out all about that. Mark says to me, thank you for your inspiring, and it says to you, sorry Andrew, thank you for your inspiring and amusing Megavitamin teachings. My mother, who is 63, has 1 kidney, having had 1 removed due to cancer. I'd like to encourage her to take vitamins and minerals per the information on the Megavitamins course. I wonder if her intake levels should be any different to those of us with 2 kidneys. Would you advise she avoid taking high doses of any particular vitamin or mineral, or indeed needs higher quantities of any particular one?
We have 2 kidneys, and I'm glad we do. It's generally accepted that we can get by on 1. In fact, sometimes people actually donate a kidney to a family member, and they live a long, productive life, and the other person lives as well. So we probably have more kidney than we need. The real question I think you have to ask is, will the person with 1 kidney do better on bad nutrition? Will not taking the vitamins help that kidney? And I would say the risk is greater to deprive nutrients than to take them. The question then is, well, if you're going to take them, how much? I think this is something that should be done by trial and error and in conjunction with discussions with your physician. I think a good multivitamin every meal, some extra vitamin C, be a good idea. Vegetable juicing, I don't see how that can hurt. And coenzyme Q10, mentioned earlier, is safe to take. I don't know of any side effects of that. It seems to me that a plant-based diet's not going to do that kidney any harm and might do it a lot of good. Why? Because an overload of protein in our diet is what can often cause kidney damage in the first place. Western diets age kidneys very quickly. We tend to have too much protein. Most people consume 100 to 130 grams of protein a day, and we really only need about a third of that. Well, all that extra protein makes the kidneys work harder. This is in basic dietetics textbooks, including one that I used when I taught clinical nutrition some 20 years ago. Everyone knows this, and yet we still have vast quantities of protein. How much protein do you need? One chicken leg is more than enough protein for an entire day. And how many times do people sit down and in the course of a day have a little bit more protein than that? So what can you do for that kidney? It seems to me that not taking supplements, not doing the juicing, is not going to help that kidney. Why don't you introduce them, work with the doctors, and see what works?
Okay, this one is, oh, there's no name on this one. It says, I read that this was a possible cure for my eye disease. I was wondering if you'd heard about it and knew how much extra magnesium I should take. My optometrist doesn't believe magnesium is a cure. There's only been one study, but I emailed and I feel it's worth taking some extra magnesium to see if it helps. That's a little... Sorry, go ahead.
Is the eye illness identified?
It's not, and if it is, somehow that part has got deleted, I'm afraid.
Well, if there's one study that shows that magnesium helps, that in itself is sufficient to justify further inquiry. The real question is how much magnesium you want to take. Most people don't get the USRDA. They don't. The USRDA for magnesium is actually pretty good. It's between 300 and 400 milligrams a day, and most people don't get it. So if you were to take something in the neighborhood of 400 milligrams a day, and I would cut that into 2 doses, I take 200 twice a day, for instance, I don't think there's any danger there. I don't think there's a downside. If you took huge amounts of magnesium, you're going to find that it has a laxative effect. You've heard of milk of magnesia, the laxative? Well, that's a magnesium preparation. So too much magnesium can cause a laxative effect. Well, don't take that much. 400, perhaps a little more a day in divided doses is strictly safe. I think it's worth trying. If it doesn't help, you haven't lost anything. If people aren't getting the RDA, no one can possibly object to that. If you say to the doctor, I'm going to supplement with magnesium around the USRDA, the doctor is very unlikely to say, that's too much, because it isn't.
Okay. I would welcome any suggestions on dealing with lipomas. I've had a small one on my thigh for about 25 years and never worried about it, but recently it's been getting bigger. I would prefer not to have it excised, and I wondered, was there any way to shrink it?
Maybe. I know people that have had some success there when they've done juice fasting and detoxes and improved their diet. Sometimes those things will get smaller. I know other people that didn't. If it's near the surface and it's not near any important real estate or nerves or anything like that, you might want to have it taken out. It's really a very simple operation. Go to a good surgeon and you'll hardly notice it. So if you can reduce it in the time that it takes before you have your appointment for the surgery, good. And if you can't, you can just have it removed if it's bothering you.
Okay. Is there any way to restore gut health after contamination from aerial GMO BTK pesticide? My skin is still a mess after 8 years. I'm becoming more and more allergic to more and more things. Thank you for all you do and for the opportunity to ask this question.
Dr. Thomas Levy, a medical doctor who's an internist and a certified cardiologist, has a wonderful book on vitamin C, toxins, and infectious diseases, and he goes into this a lot. Vitamin C is an antitoxin. It's probably the best antitoxin. It's certainly broad spectrum. It's certainly cheap and safe and readily available. I would get that vitamin C level up to bowel tolerance. I think in addition to that, doing the general detox diet of vegetable juices, plant-based diet, and organically grown food would help your immune system. We want the body to heal itself. The body has been insulted. It has been harmed. It has been hit with a chemical that it doesn't know what to do about. So this is going to be a process that may take a little while. I think vitamin C's antitoxic properties and its immune system building properties warrant you're taking more vitamin C. And you hear me say this all the time, and I know I sound like a one-trick pony, but for 40 years, I've seen people start juicing, and they really do have improvement. And in the skin, you can see the improvement. It's just amazing. I work with people with eczema and psoriasis and rashes that won't go away, and they get going here, and they notice a real difference. There is this one little child that had diaper rash from their shoulders to their ankles. It was really awful. And the mother basically just started giving him yogurt, and it cleared up. Now, that's an example of how something so simple can be so useful. So I would give it a try.
Okay. This is from a wonderfully named guy called Mark Diffendorfer, and he says, what would you recommend and any applicable doses for my wife who has chronic fatigue? This has taken a huge toll on our family, and I would really like to have my wife back. Chronic fatigue gets very little attention and research. Any help or suggestions very much appreciated.
Yeah, it's a real good question. I bet there's a whole lot of people that are interested in this. Even if you don't have chronic fatigue, we all have times when our get up and go is got up and went. Vitamin deficiency is often indicated by fatigue, deficiency of the B vitamins, any one of the B vitamins. One of the symptoms is fatigue. Deficiency of vitamin C, scurvy, as described hundreds of years ago. One of the symptoms is extreme fatigue. Beriberi, which is a deficiency of vitamin B1 thiamine, means I can't. I mean, that's how much fatigue there is. The name says it all. Therefore, the B-complex vitamins and vitamin C are worth trying. My experience has been that people that get to bowel tolerance of vitamin C have a lot more energy. I have seen folks with chronic fatigue who fit the following scenario. One lady exemplifies it. This lady had chronic fatigue. Well, I guess you could say she still does. But whenever she does lots of vegetable juicing and gets to bowel tolerance of vitamin C, her symptoms go away. So this is the approach to chronic fatigue that I would start with because it's so easy. Drinking vegetable juices is good for you whether you have fatigue or not. But if you have the tiredness, you're going to notice, I think, a delightful improvement. And bowel tolerance of vitamin C is definitely going to pep you up. Try it, and I think you may notice it.
Okay, thank you. I have been doing some research on vitamins. I'm sorry. 1 second. Sorry about that. I've been doing some research on vitamins. This is a very strange question. And I've come to the conclusion that making my own is the best route. What do you think?
A vitamin, by definition, can't be made. That's why it's called a vitamin. It's something that we need that our body cannot make. So when you say make, I assume you mean either formulate or concoct or something. I'm unaware of any way that you can do that more efficiently than you can go and buy the things already done for you. I'd rather get on with my life and take the preparations that are out there that are easily available and effective. Remember this, vitamins, by definition, are necessary for life. A lack of vitamins causes illness. A deficiency of any vitamin long enough will cause death. So don't play around with this. This is not a philosophical exchange here. This is a matter of doing what works physically, physiologically for your body. It's physiology, not philosophy. Nutrients are in your food. Eat good food, take your supplements, go organic, drink vegetable juices, problem solved.
Yeah, the only thing I can think you may have been referring to there was making liposomal vitamin C. That's the only thing really makes sense. This one's from Philip, who says, would the vitamin C crystals remain potent if I added several teaspoons to a water bottle and drink a specific amount every half hour during the day?
You'll lose potency, but you'll still get away with it. If you put enough C in solution, it doesn't matter if you lose some of it. You're still going to get benefit. When vitamin C is dissolved, it starts to lose its kick. When it hits oxygen, when it's in the water, it definitely does. Fill the container all the way, keep it tightly capped. Will it work? Sure. Personally, I would just take some vitamin C all through the day. If you want to make it up in the morning, go ahead. but I don't find it that much of a burden to pop a few C tablets every hour or so. It works for me. Your way is fine. I don't care how you get the vitamin C down, as long as you have enough of it.
I love it that I've been doing this so long now that I know the answers to questions before you tell them. This one is from Matt Moore, and he says, I've had bad allergies and juice cannot get rid of sinus pressure. What can I do? I am on allergy shots, nasal spray, and have just been put on steroids. I would love to get off all this. I feel stuffed up all the time, and it's very hard to breathe. I even had sinus surgery.
If you're doing juices, that's good. You want to maximize your fluid intake. Dr. Ralph Bookman was President Ronald Reagan's personal physician and allergist. And he had President Reagan drink 10 glasses of liquid a day. If you have more liquid, says Dr. Bookman, liquid makes mucus thinner, and it just makes it easier to pass it through. Now, that's a no-lose proposition. I would recommend that you increase your fluid intake, whether it's juicing or whether it's good quality water. The other thing that I would recommend is that you use high doses of vitamin C, because I know it is very effective for the condition you have. I've seen it help a lot of people over the years. So vitamin C and lots of liquid, and I mean lots of C and lots of liquid, perhaps more than you're taking, would be my first line suggestion.
Okay, we've had 2 or 3 people, and I think we did ask a question about this earlier, but 2 or 3 people asking about the orthomolecular approach to Lyme disease.
Prevention, of course, would be ideal. High doses of vitamin C would be, in my opinion, the premier therapy for that.
Okay, this one is from Kerry, who says, my husband is 62 and has some varicose veins in his left leg and around the ankle. Of late, he's experiencing tightness around the ankle, which is causing discomfort. He has normal movement and no significant pain, just a real tightness that bothers him. Can you make any suggestions for treating this?
Well, the first is check with the doctor on that one. If you have weird leg pains or tightness or things like that, it could be a circulation problem. I knew one fellow who thought that he had a problem with his sciatic nerve, the nerve that goes down the back of the leg, that maybe manipulative therapy could help. And it turns out that he probably did, and it did help. But the problem persisted, and it turns out that he also had blood clots. And it was good that he went to the doctor, and then he started taking vitamin E. Vitamin E, as an Edward, helps to dissolve blood clots. And then we're back to my father again. This is really a great evening for Dad. A side effect of him taking all that vitamin E for angina, remember that, is that his varicose veins went away. Now, my father's varicose veins were famous throughout the neighborhood because he liked to sunbathe in our backyard on an old surplus canvas army cot that he got for maybe $1.50 back in the 1950s. My dad liked nothing better in the summer than to put on his Bermuda shorts and go out there and lie in the sun. Just loved it. Well, as kids, we couldn't resist this. I mean, there's your father. Look at those varicose veins, Andy. And my father's varicose veins could be seen for several statute miles. As he took vitamin E for his angina, his dark purple varicose veins started getting smaller and lighter. They went from dark purple to kind of a blue, and then to kind of a magenta, a reddish blue color, and then they got red, and then they got pink. And over a period of years, and I'm there, I saw it, over a period of years, probably 7 or 8 years, his varicose veins actually got lighter. And after quite a long time, you couldn't see them. So varicose veins may respond to high doses of vitamin E as an eddy. Gradually increasing the dose of vitamin E is a good idea. If you've had rheumatic heart fever, or if you have a rheumatic heart, if you have congestive heart failure, if you are on medication for various forms of heart disease, you should work with your doctor and begin with a low dose of vitamin E. If you have high blood pressure, you should begin with a low dose of vitamin E as an eddy. I do describe some of this in my book, Doctor Yourself, and also at the Doctor Yourself website.
Okay, we're down to our last 15 minutes. We've almost done 2 hours, which is unbelievable. So I'm going to fire these at you as quickly as I can to get through as many as we can. Again, folks, if you're interested in longer answers and a real fast track knowledge of this whole subject, you can go to the megavitaminscourse.com. The address is under my name there, and that'll tell you all about the course and how you can partake in that if you're interested. So please feel free to do that. This is from Amelia, who says, I've read that vitamin C can influence the amount of copper in the body. I've also read that lack of copper can cause vitiligo or vitiligo. I'm not sure what that is. Is there any truth in this?
Copper interacts with vitamin C a bit. Dr. Carl Pfeiffer thought that we had too much copper. Copper deficiency is fairly rare. Many, if not most, household water pipes are made out of copper. And you get copper just from that. Copper is also found in foods like raisins. I think it is an overblown concern. I think there's so many other things that we should worry about more. If you have a balanced diet and you have water from copper water pipes, I think you're going to get enough. I've been taking massive doses of vitamin C for decades now, and I have not, with myself or with my family or with those I've worked with, run into a copper issue. It's probably a minor concern. Could be a problem. If it is, you need to check with your doctor, get some tests and some monitoring.
Okay, this one is from Rene, and says, what vitamins or herbs can help with healing nerve damage, sciatica, back pain, and any dosages you would recommend?
Fellow wrote to me who had really bad sciatica. In fact, he'd been a volunteer and had been helping me out with a lot of different things with doctoryourself.com. And he had really, really bad sciatica, apparently. I don't know what happened, but it was awful. He said he couldn't bend over. His children had to put his socks on. He was in terrible pain, couldn't lie down, couldn't stretch out, couldn't walk, couldn't do anything, couldn't even bend forward to pull his socks up. So he started taking massive doses of vitamin C because vitamin C helps to reduce inflammation. He was desperate. He had been to all kinds of clinics. He'd seen all kinds of specialists. He'd even been to the Cleveland Clinic, one of the real preeminent facilities in the United States. And they basically tested him 6 ways from Tuesday and told him he'd probably just have to live with it. Well, he didn't like that. So he figured before he cashed in totally, he'd take huge amounts of vitamin C. He did. He had improvement in pain, and presumably the inflammation going down is what caused that improvement, and was so much better in a day that he could put his own socks on. In 2 days, he could go around the house and do what he wanted. And 4 days later, he was out cutting wood, chopping wood in his backyard, and his wife came out and he wrote to me and said, she nearly killed me. She said, what are you doing out here? And he said, well, wait. No, I'm all right. And the vitamin C took care of it. That's his story. He took huge doses of C. In 4 days, he went from being an invalid to a lumberjack. Vitamin C in high doses did it for him. I would try it first.
This is from Tony, who says he was diagnosed with Bell's palsy in February this year. There's been some recovery, but it's been slow. What vitamins would aid him the most?
Probably the B complex. Look at doctoryourself.com for the free download of Dr. Quenner's protocol for using vitamins for multiple sclerosis. I know this isn't multiple sclerosis, but the reason I want you to look at it is because it gives you an idea of what Dr. Quenner would tell you. He would say, take the B vitamins in quantity, and the quantities are in the protocol. So that would be the first thing to look at. The second thing would be to go to a chiropractor. When I taught clinical nutrition, it was at a chiropractic college. I have a lot of friends who are chiropractors. I am not a chiropractor. I have no financial connection with chiropractic. But I do know that some chiropractors have reported good success in treating Bell's palsy.
Okay, Philip asks, is there an effective protocol for fibromyalgia?
Yes. Oh, you want to know what it is? Okay. All right, class, has everybody been listening? How many people think, no, let's not see the same hands. How many people think it's vitamin C at bowel tolerance? Very good. I congratulate everyone on recognizing that a deficiency of one nutrient can cause many problems. And that's why one nutrient can cure so many things. Fibromyalgia, the first thing you want to do is try vitamin C. And I've had people with fibromyalgia tell me that that would not help and they're not going to do it. And their doctor said it wouldn't help, and the doctor's not going to do it. And they've never seen anything on TV that told them they should, and they've never had any advice from a nurse or other health practitioner saying, try vitamin C for fibromyalgia. So my comeback is, well, if you've never tried it, how come you know it won't work? If they've never used it, how come they know it will fail? If you take high doses of vitamin C, you are in for a real treat. It's just amazing how much that can help. In addition to that, you might want to take a look at magnesium, take a look at your diet, try gentle exercise, nothing too strenuous, gradually increase it. But I think that vitamin C is really the key for this one.
Okay, this is probably too vague a question for you to give a direct answer to, but what do you suggest for a 5-year-old child with seizures? That comes in from Oscar.
If they are undiagnosed, you better find out what's causing them. If they are epileptic seizures, there was a study done with children with epileptic seizures, and when they were given hundreds of units of vitamin E a day, E as in Edward, 80% of the children had their seizures stop. And in the other 20%, the frequency was less often and they were less severe. This is spectacular. Vitamin E as in Edward for epileptic seizures in children has been tested, and it's a fascinating thing to know. The second thing is magnesium deficiency can cause seizures. There are probably other factors as well, but these are the first two. Have the child's magnesium checked. I worked with one young person who had seizures, and they had their magnesium checked. They couldn't find it. Her magnesium level was undetectable. So she started taking a lot of magnesium. I think she took 1,200 milligrams a day, which is really a lot. That's 3 to 4 times the RDA. That's quite a lot of magnesium. If you or I took that in good health, we'd probably find it had a laxative effect. When she took 1,200 milligrams of magnesium, they could just find it when they tested for it. So her body was very, very seriously deficient in magnesium. Vitamin E as an Eddy and magnesium would be the very first two things to check.
Okay, this is a rather strange one. This is from Karen. I have tried to use vitamin C. When I take even a small amount of it, 100 milligrams daily for a few days, I lose all the skin on my lips. This is not just chapped lips, the skin peels off. Any suggestions?
A few hundred milligrams of vitamin C is a very, very small amount. I'm not entirely sure that the vitamin C is doing that, but I also have learned over the years to take people's word for things when they say, this bothers me and this is what I think caused it. Having said that, you could be wrong, but I'm going to assume that you're right. If you are astronomically sensitive to vitamin C like that, you could try taking a buffered form of vitamin C. Try smaller amounts. Try dividing the dose. Do what works. You know the story. The doctor had the patient come in. The patient says, "Doc, it hurts when I do that." And the doctor, of course, said, then don't do that. Try different forms of C. Try dividing the dose. And try taking lower amounts and see what happens. Also, open yourself to the idea that maybe it really wasn't the C, but it could have been coincidental. Not saying it was, but it could have been.
Okay, last couple of questions. This is from Devon, who says, my husband suffers from sickle cell anemia and is constantly catching colds. Is there something we might be missing? We titrate to bowel tolerance with vitamin C, as well as take many other vitamins and minerals. I seem to do fine, but he still gets sick often. We also juice plenty of fresh fruits and vegetables with an emphasis on carrots.
Well, I congratulate you on what you're doing. You might want to consider increasing your vitamin E level, E as an Eddy. Introducing 300 to 500 milligrams of CoQ10 might help. Sickle cell anemia is a genetic thing. There's a limit to what we can do when it is actually a genetic determinant. But I think that you're on the right track. Let's introduce additional E and the CoQ10, keep the C level high, and let us know how you're doing. Again, vegetable juicing can't hurt. I don't know the answer here, but I am curious. And when I am curious, I try things.
Okay, down to our last question. Just before we do our last question, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us. There's been several hundred of you on the webinar tonight, and that's really encouraging for us to see so many people interested in furthering their own health and finding out more information on everything Andrew teaches about. So thank you for joining us from all over the world as you have done. This last question is from Vivian, and she says, I'd like to know, are there any supplements or minerals that will help my father who is suffering with lung problems? He has COPD and a lung disease from working in the uranium mines. I really want to help him in any way that I can. He also has diabetes, glaucoma, and heart disease.
Wow, that's really a lot, and I think it's great that you want to help your dad. And I think this is really the best part, Trevor, of the work that we do, because we don't just get to work with people who want to help themselves. We get to work with compassionate, intelligent, caring human beings in every country who are trying to help their family and their friends do better, and I think that's wonderful. There's so much hope here. I have a page on COPD at dryourself.com. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if it's been caused by uranium, I'm going to assume that it's either the dust from mining or it's the radioactive substance itself, maybe a combination of the two. Make sure the person doesn't smoke. That's the first thing. The second thing is juice like mad. Get going in the vegetable juices to help rebuild things that are going inside the lungs. Vegetable juices are high in vitamin A as beta-carotene. That'll help to improve the endothelium, the sensitive tissue inside the lungs. Next thing is vitamin C. You knew I was going to say that, but here's why. Vitamin C has been used by Dr. Etsuo Yanagasawa at Fukushima to treat people who had radiation damage. Vitamin C reversed it. I have Dr. Yanagasawa's complete protocol as a PowerPoint presentation that you can download for free at dryourself.com. And his complete therapeutic protocol for vitamin C treatment of radiation sickness is in the brand new book just released, The Orthomolecular Treatment of Chronic Disease. This is the first time the protocol has ever been published in its entirety. Vitamin E is an Edward. That just makes sense. People have found for decades, ever since Drs. Wilfred and Evan Shute in London, Ontario, Canada, were treating with vitamin E back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, that when people take more vitamin E, they have easier breathing. So those are some things that may help. And once again, if there's any possibility this person is smoking, that has got to go.
Okay, that's the book that Andrew was referencing there. I ordered this through the mail, and I couldn't believe the size of it. It's like a phone book. So if you're really serious about your health, that's a book you should get your hands on.
Trevor, can I comment on the book for a minute?
Sure, no problem.
It is a very big book. It's 800 pages, double-columned, and there are 65 doctors and researchers who contribute. And these are people that actually have experience using megadoses of vitamins. So the beauty of this is you don't have to take my word for it, and I would prefer you didn't. Let's take a look at what actual doctors do and the results they got, and that's in the Orthomolecular Treatment of Chronic Disease. The second thing I'd like to mention is don't be intimidated by the size of the volume. Health is a big topic. You don't have to read the whole thing. It's double cross-indexed, so you can find everything quickly and easily. And finally, we've edited it very carefully and included a glossary of terms to make it easy to read. We don't dumb it down, but we take the medical puffery out of it so it is accessible. This is a book that you can read that will help you. Amazon is selling this thing for $30 US. My publisher never puts out an 800-page big book like that for 30 bucks. He did this because he shares our dream here of reaching everyone. And this book is something that you can take in and drop on your doctor's desk, listen to the satisfying thump it will make. And when your doctor says, well, I've never seen any evidence that vitamins cure disease, remember that your doctor is probably telling the truth. Your doctor probably hasn't seen it until now. This book is a nice compilation of what you and your doctor need to know. And I'm giving myself the plug here, but what I'm really doing is plugging the 65 authors that are in this book. I was the editor, not the author. These people really know what they're doing. And this is information that I think will help you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you on behalf of everyone who joined us tonight, because to sit there for 2 hours and answer questions far out like that is very stressful, and I realize that. So thank you for taking the time to do that. Folks, if you're interested in the Megavitamin course, like I say, it's just under my name there, www.megavitaminscourse.com/MVFSP, and that will tell you all that you need to know if you're interested in taking part in that. Next one starts on the 13th of October. Thank you for joining us. I know you've been here from Argentina, from Spain, from Italy, from Israel, from all over the place. Here in Belfast, it has just turned 11 p.m. and it's time for a cup of coffee, I hate to say, and then bedtime. So thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it, and we hope we'll see you on our Facebook, andrewsaul.com or dryourself.com. Thank you again, and good evening.